What's up, suckers? I'm back. It's me. And before we get started, obviously, if this is your kind of thing, if you're a real fan of learning how to live with ADHD and kind of following along on that journey, and also learning what I teach my clients and what I've learned over a lifetime of having ADHD, then this is the place for you. Please make sure that you like and subscribe. That is, whether you're watching or listening, that would be great. It helps great people find me. It helps me find great people. And that's the whole reason I do this. So anyway, I wanted to do something a little bit different today because we are coming up on the holidays, which is a huge time for buying presents. And I really tried to keep away from like holiday themed gifts in this little gift guide I'm going to share with you guys because, you know, ADHDers have birthdays and Mother's Days and Father's Days and a number of other times where, you know, we like receiving things. Gifts are fun. They give dopamine. So whether you are buying a gift for someone else, receiving a gift, or buying a gift for yourself, so you're kind of doing both, here are a bunch of suggestions from an ADHD coach for things that are great gifts for ADHDers. And before we really get into it, I just want to make it clear, by the way, two things. First off, I am not affiliated with any of the products that I'm about to bring up. I have the links for them in the description where you can get them on Amazon, just because that's the easiest place to find them. But if you decide that you want to go someplace else to get them, it's not doing me any favors or not, so do what you will. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up is please keep in mind that these are gifts that I want you to give because the other person wants them. Sometimes I feel like, especially when we are dealing with people who have ADHD or some other sort of disorder, that sometimes gifts are given to try to passive aggressively correct behavior or to teach a lesson. And I am staunchly in the camp that that is not what gifts are for. Gifts are supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be the time to be excited about receiving gifts. So please, 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 when you see these, only think about them in the terms of, would this be exciting for the person I'm getting them for? Not, how can I fix them or how can I fix their life? Unless they've asked you to fix their life, which then I suppose completely negates my last sentence and sorry I wasted your time. Anyway, with that, let's go ahead and get into some of the gifts. So the first gift is for those who need a little help in time management and time blindness, and that is the Pomodoro Cube timer. If you guys watched my video with Anso Pelletier, you would have seen that they use a cube very much like this one. And the whole point of it is to be able to kind of roll through Pomodoro stints. And some of these are not suggested on Amazon as Pomodoro timers. They're for like oven timers, egg timers, whatever, but obviously they can be used for that. These are super handy in that they generally tend to fit on any desk. They don't really stand out. In fact, they kind of fit the design of an office desk, and they're very easy to set off. You just basically pick the side of the time stint that you need, you put it on the side, and it starts. And I particularly like these as opposed to any other kind of timer, just because they're prettier and, you know, shiny things. But also, I like the concept of using a physical timer for Pomodoro as well, just because it puts a little bit more responsibility, physical responsibility, on ending your Pomodoro and taking that break or drinking that water or going to the bathroom that you've probably been putting off. And these cubes are just amazing for that. There are tons with multiple different styles, and the link in the description is just one that I saw, but there are a number that you can get. Next up, for those who struggle with keeping up with routine, a dry erase checklist. Now, obviously, there are multiple ways to keep up with routine. I've taught a few of them in classes I've done, and what it comes down to is being able to physically, mentally, digitally cross off things as you do them in a way that feels natural. And when you're doing a routine, especially sometimes if it's longer, the difficulty in that routine, at least until your body and your muscle memory catch up, is that you can sometimes forget certain parts of it. And, I generally am not a fan of trying to change everything at once, but if you're trying to build an overall routine, it can be done. But with ADHD, it especially needs to be done visually. There needs to be a way for you to see in order the way that you are planning on running things. And these are perfect for that. And they're perfect for ADHD because they are dry erase. Well, that's one of the reasons, and we'll get to the second in a second. But the first being that it's dry erase, so that as things change, as you realize that you need to customize your routine to certain changes in life or certain things that you're trying to do, you are able to just erase and redraw and erase and redraw. And so it makes it a lot easier for you to make sure that your routine fits your life, not trying to shoehorn your life into that routine. It does give you a little bit of dopamine in that it allows you to check off things as you do them, but not just with like a little check mark, but actually with the click of a little button that you push. So it makes it so that it's a lot more enjoyable too, to actually see yourself finish off each routine task. And the great thing about these is that they're also, for the most part, very economical. The one that I found on Amazon was only $9. And so it can even work for you to get one for your morning, afternoon, and evening routine, and then to keep them in the rooms that you generally tend to be in for those places, or at your desk at work during the day. And it doesn't have to like take up a bunch of room or grab a lot of people's attention if you don't want it to. So I absolutely love these for anybody who might have a new routine that they want to start, but the difficulty starting said routine. Next up, for procrastination and day planning, an ADHD specific digital planner. Now, I have made my feelings known about planners. I feel that it's really hard to make a paper planner work for an ADHDer, at least long term. I love planners just as much as everyone else, but I have had to resign myself to the fact that they don't work, mainly because unless I am carrying it around with me everywhere and forcing myself to write in it regularly, it just doesn't work. And it also can't really integrate with any of the digital options I use, so it winds up eventually hanging out in the back of a closet somewhere. So generally, unless you're someone who just has already learned how to make pen and paper planners work, and if you have, good for you. But if you're not one of those people, I generally tend to say, if you really want that planner feel, but you don't want to have to go through the disappointment of buying one and not using it, digital planners are going to be your best bet, and even more so, digital planners that are ADHD friendly. In my opinion, still the best one is the one by Artful Agenda. I brought that up in one of my previous videos, and I absolutely love this planner company, specifically because they allow for customization. You get a lot of neat changes to covers and things like that to keep it interesting. And it also two-ways things with your Google Calendar so that you're able to plan around it, but also add things to your calendar, to your digital calendar, as you add them to your digital planner. And I think that's brilliant. I'm not even affiliated with them anymore. I don't have an account with them anymore because I'm constantly testing new apps. And if I had an account with every app that I love that I tested, I would be dirt poor. So I don't, but I still love them and I still suggest them when we're talking ADHD planners. But if you're looking for something that might be a little bit different from that, if you're kind of looking for something that's a little bit more of a DIY situation, or something where you can build a lot easier different pages of your planner, like a finance tracker or a diet tracker or anything like that, you can find tons of them on Etsy. And I have also heard really good things about the Commit 30 company in terms of digital planners that are ADHD friendly. From what I've seen, when it comes to Commit 30. They don't specifically say they're ADHD friendly, they just apparently seem to be. But on Etsy, you can find ones that specifically are for people with ADHD, and they are generally much cheaper than you will find anywhere else. So if you have somebody who really, really wants a planner, but you're just kind of like, boo, I know I get you a planner and that thing is gone into your closet in like 2 weeks, this might be the perfect solution. Next up, if you're like me and you have energy issues, and if you're like every other ADHDer out there and you tend to have focus issues, how about a little somewhat luxurious idea in shower steamers? So shower steamers are these little puck type things that you drop into your shower. You try not to drop them directly into the water from what I understand. And as they get wet, they release scents that kind of work through aromatherapy to give you the response that you're looking for. Now, I want to make it clear. Aromatherapy is not a cure for anything. It is not something that is going to give you long-term results unless you continually keep smelling the scent. However, there have been studies that have shown that aromatherapy can be very helpful for mood and for energy and focus to give you a nice boost. And these, I think, are a great idea for ADHDers specifically because a lot of us also struggle with doing the extra work when it comes to hygiene. Some of us it's brushing teeth, some of us it's showering. So making it more fun, making it more interesting, and kind of giving you that extra boost of energy and focus can be so helpful in not only waking you up, but in also making something a little bit more interesting and a little bit easier to do. Now, the ones that I have listed in the description, I think are around $18, but they're not the only ones out there by a long shot. And so it might be worth it to look into what there is. Bath bombs are also an option. I just don't know that bath bombs, like taking a bath and gaining energy, are exactly connected. So maybe think on that one. Now, if you are not really worried about energy, but you are worried about focus and anxiety, which is very common in people with ADHD as well, may I suggest a green tea set? And some of you probably looked at me and were like, no, Ariana, no, you may not. And that's fine. But if you know somebody in your life who absolutely adores tea, or even who's open to tea, but doesn't necessarily adore it, green tea is rich in, it does have caffeine, but it actually also is rich in a compound called L-theanine. And L-theanine has shown a lot of promise in helping with things like anxiety and focus. Now, I am going to speak fully anecdotally here, but on the days where I am very tired and I decide that I need to stay up for whatever amount of time past lunch, because lunch is usually my dip, kind of like everyone else, I will go ahead and I will have a mug of green tea. And on those days that I do that, I actually do feel much more focused and quite calm. It's very, very lovely. And most green tea, in my opinion, tastes delicious. So that is a fantastic option. And there are a lot of very pretty sets of different types of flavors of green tea that you can get. And if the person that you know just loves tea in general, and this sounds like a fantastic idea, just so you know, L-theanine exists in all types of tea, black and green and white. You can actually sign them up for a subscription box through a company called Sipsby. I will have their link in the description as well. I adored Sipsby when I was with them. The only reason I'm not with them anymore is because I'm in a country they don't ship to, but best believe that every time, I still haven't taken myself off of their email newsletter, because every time they send me something, I like to read it like I'm stalking an ex-boyfriend's Facebook page. And I probably just dated myself there because Facebook's not cool anymore, but that's not the point. You know what I mean? It's incredible for tea heads or tea likers or tea, whatever you guys call yourselves, let me know. So those, either one would be fantastic. And next, for the ADHDer who gets overstimulated, overwhelmed, and really needs that extra focus just blocking the rest of the world out. This is going to be a more expensive option, but noise canceling headphones are my jam. I love them. I can honestly say that, I think we all know overstimulation is very, very common for ADHDers. And I can honestly say that noise canceling headphones can come in very handy for more than just when you're working. They help on planes. They can help in situations where people are yelling at each other and kids, when I say people, I mean kids, are yelling at each other and you just need a moment to think. Putting on headphones can be a huge help just for a second to pull yourself out of that moment and to let your system calm down. And I'm going to say right now, the absolute best ones that I've ever had an experience with are the Bose noise canceling headphones. They are pretty expensive at about $250. So if you don't want to do that, the Soundcore Anchor Q20s, I think is what they're called. I'll have the link in the description. I might have the name wrong here, but I had those for a very long time, and until someone sat on them, it wasn't me. They worked amazingly as well, and they actually had different levels of sound cancellation, including white noise. It was a very nice deal for about $40. So maybe think of giving someone the gift of silence for Christmas. And for those of us, all of us, who lose everything, maybe look into key finder tiles. So key finder tiles are a fairly newish thing, and I don't know why I own any myself because I want some very badly, and there are different kinds that you can get. Some are specifically for keys. Some are just meant to be connected to whatever, like glued or taped to whatever you tend to lose, and they're connected to an app that you can use on your phone to find whatever you've lost. Some whistle, some light up. It's really just kind of up to you. But the beauty of these things is that just having those can kind of release some of the shame and some of the anxiety that we have connected to losing things, because now we have a little bit of extra help. They are generally, I believe, in the $35 to $40 range, and in my opinion, they're kind of worth it not to have to yell, "Where are my keys?" again. But if that's not your kind of thing, I'm pretty certain that you can find some for even cheaper than that, and at a more expensive price tag, because I know that some people use the Apple AirTags, which are not exactly the cheapest, but also a great option. And now for those who tend to forget things or who struggle with sudden to-dos, here's a really cool one for you. It's a wearable to-do list. So if you didn't grow up in the 90s, you probably don't remember slap bracelets. And if you do remember slap bracelets and you're like, Ariana, those are lame, first off, you're wrong. Okay. And I'm going to forgive you for that. But second off, these slap bracelets are different. These are dry erase wearable to-do lists that you can put on your wrist like a slap bracelet. And as things come up, you can add to that to-do list to make sure that you don't forget that new to-do or idea or task that just came up. Or if you're at home and you're like, I have some stuff that I really need to do. I need to go to the bank, to the grocery store, and to the post office, but I'm not going to remember all of that. Write it down, put it on your wrist, and take it with you. It's a fantastic idea for adults and for children. I'm actually kind of thinking of getting this for my son because I think it would be horribly helpful for him as well. And they are super cheap at like $13. So there are a few options out there, a few different designs, but they're all pretty similar. However, I could see this being super helpful and a great gift for lots of different people, myself included. And for any of you ADHDers out there who are trying really hard to get better at hydrating, I have a couple of options for you in the way of water bottles. So the problem with trying to hydrate is twofold for ADHDers. First off, it's not exciting, okay? Drinking water is probably one of the least exciting things in the entire world unless it's 3 a.m. and then for some reason water tastes like manna from heaven. So that's a struggle. Then we also have the problem of just not receiving a dopamine hit from drinking that water. There's just no real feedback. And so it's really easy for us to forget. So I found the Hydrate Spark water bottle, and the whole point of it is to make sure that you cannot forget to drink water. It's connected by Bluetooth to an app, and going according to certain time spans that you've chosen, it'll light up when it's time for you to drink water. And then after you drink the water, it'll reset and continue to tell you throughout the day. Now, it's beautiful for ADHD brains because, first off, it lights up with really pretty colors, and I believe that you can kind of change how it lights up. And there's gamification and a ton of dopamine stoking going on here, so it makes it a lot more interesting and a lot more fun. That being said, the price tag is a little steep for a water bottle. It is $70. So if you're cool with spending $70 on this, no judgment here. If I wanted to do that, I would absolutely go for it. But if you're kind of like, I do need help hydrating, but I don't want to do that, then your next best option, I think, is to get one of the simpler water bottles that just kind of cuts your water intake for the day into little bits by times that you're supposed to be drinking it, with motivational phrases on it. And it isn't going to be as exciting, it's not going to be as flashy, it's not going to light up, but it is going to at least cut the task of drinking a certain amount of water a day down to little fragments, to little tasks, which also works really well with ADHD brains, as does motivation and support, which some of these water bottles give. And the best part about those water bottles is that they are much cheaper, usually around $20. And for those who need a little humor and support sometimes, I found this tumbler and I thought that it was a great example of finding something that's just fun and funny and motivational. Most of the time, I think we get swept up in the idea of gifts having to be pragmatic and useful. And a lot of the gifts that I've suggested even have been pragmatic and useful. But sometimes it's okay to just have something that is fun to look at or that's just enjoyable. And I thought that this cup was a great example, first off, because it has a lot of affirmations on it that I think ADHDers really need day to day. Things about how it's okay to have anxiety, how it's okay not to get everything done. But it's also colorful. It's also very cute. It's also something that it holds drinks. Like, it doesn't do anything particularly special, but it's enjoyable. And sometimes that's just what we need. When we're having rough days, when we're having a tough time, we need those gifts that are just going to be fun to look at and use. And I thought that this was a beautiful example of that. So you can get that on Amazon for about $20. If you're not interested in this one, you probably can find something pretty easy on Etsy. And if you are an ADHDer who struggles to decide what to eat, I have a couple of options for you here. The first being a meal service subscription like Blue Apron, HelloFresh, or the plant-based Purple Carrot. Things like that. And there are probably a few more out there that I've missed. Now, the pros of these, it kind of takes away a lot of the guesswork. A lot of ADHDers tend to eat not quite so healthily for themselves, not in ways that help their brains, largely because it's very hard to decide what to eat in the moment. There are too many things surrounding us. And, we just don't really know what it is that we want. And our brains kind of go through this motion of like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I could cook something, but I don't feel like doing it. So I'm just going to eat this Pop-Tart and that's going to be my dinner, which works once in a while. But, when you've done it a lot, it can really mess with the way that your brain works and mess with the way that you feel day to day. So getting somebody a meal subscription can be very helpful in that with a lot of these, you choose your weekly menu. And if you're like, okay, but that doesn't get rid of my problem with cooking, I don't like to cook, there are subscriptions that include pre-made meals. So you just get pre-made meals straight to your door, which is amazing. So basically, the point of these is to make it so that people eat a little bit better, a little bit healthier for themselves, without having to really rack their brains and get overwhelmed and tired trying to figure out what it is that they're going to have next. You can, I think, HelloFresh and maybe Blue Apron, don't quote me on that, include breakfast and lunch. So if you really wanted to go, gung-ho, you could try to make it so that they could get 3 squares a day. But even if you just help somebody with dinner, that can really, really take the edge off and really take that stress off of someone. So that is the more expensive option, obviously. You can get them gift cards, or I don't really know that you can buy someone a subscription. You probably can, but a gift card can definitely help towards a subscription as well. But if you're like, I really wasn't looking to spend that much, Ariana, slow your roll. Funny you should say roll, because there are also meal dice. Now, most of the time when you go onto Amazon, you're going to see meal dice under takeout dice or takeaway dice, and they're generally for when you're buying food from a restaurant and you just can't decide where to buy food from. There are some dice for hardcore chefs, I don't know, whatever you want to call yourself, hardcore cooks, who really kind of want to mix things up, and those will be like, this dice tells you how to cook your food, and this one tells you what kind of protein will be in your food. And you can also do that if you are a fan of cooking. But if you are a person who just generally kind of needs a little bit of help deciding what it is that you're going to eat next, and you really don't want to do the subscription, but you could use some help day to day, figuring out what to eat so that you're not just going for nachos again because it's overwhelming, these can also be extremely helpful. For a little bit of bonus points here, if you want to make it so that it's easier for you to eat throughout the week or to meal plan, you can roll this baby about 5 to 7 times, and it'll help you figure out what you're going to have for dinner throughout the week. Removing that guesswork makes eating easier for ADHDers. That's the point, and this can help. For my ADHDers out there who like to learn, but prefer to learn on their own time, online classes are the way to go, man. And you can find tons of them depending on what the person wants to learn on Masterclass, Skillshare, Udemy, I don't know. Don't tell me how it's said. I really don't care. But you can get gift cards to those really easily. And there are classes in just about everything. So if you know somebody who really has just been saying, I want to go to classes, but I just don't have time to drive down to, wherever it is, or I just don't feel like sitting amongst other people. I want to kind of do it at my own pace. This is a way to do that. But if you know somebody who's been wanting to do classes and this suddenly sparks the idea to help them get into in-person classes, all the better. But ADHDers love to learn. We like being able to find out new things. So perfect way to make sure that we keep those brains going. And if someone needs a little bit more external help and you have a little bit more money to spend on a gift, look no further than a digital assistant. I'm talking Google Home. My absolute favorite is the Echo Show, which I have in my own house and regularly have to lock because my children will use it just day in and day out to look up shit. But it is a fantastic way to take out some of that extra work that goes into remembering to write down something or to type it down or to add this to your shopping list. Or if you are trying to plan a trip and you really need to know about 14 different things, being able to just ask a digital assistant to help you with those things is such a load off for neurotypical people, but for ADHDers, it is huge. So if you're like, yeah, I can definitely spare that, or I have an extra, giving one of those is probably one of the most helpful gifts. You also have the option of hiring a human being who is considered a digital assistant. And what that person generally tends to do is help do research for big parties, help to reset appointments, things like that. I did find a company called Johanna that does this kind of thing. I've never used them, so if you decide to look into them or purchase that service for somebody, just know that you're doing so at your own risk. A little bit of help can go a long way, and purchasing help for someone or giving someone help as a gift is wildly underrated. And that goes for even just saying, hey, I'm gonna, help you clean your house, right? A lot of the time, ADHDers are frozen because of their concerns for whether or not they're going to be able to get it all done. And while they have people like me to help them kind of unfreeze from that fear, it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of extra external help, letting them know that they're not going to be expected to do it all. And finally, if you're like, the person that I care about, me, or, my sister, brother, whoever, kind of has everything. I really don't know what to get them. Get them a gift certificate or a gift card to their latest hyperfocus, whatever it is. Whatever they're newly into, get them that. My husband, just as a personal aside, he doesn't have ADHD, I don't think, but he's very similar in that he runs into new hyperfocuses all the time. And you would think that that would be really frustrating because they change, but actually it's fantastic because it makes it so that my Christmas gifts are easy. When he was into mixology, I went ahead and I got him a really nice shaker set. When he was into gardening, he's still into gardening actually, I'll get him, nippers, or I'll get him a hat, or I'll get him gloves or gardening shoes. It's actually kind of a cheat. So if you're sitting here saying, I don't know what else to get this person, you can either ask. You help and empower the people who care about you by letting them know what it is that you want. And if you are the gifter, you are showing that you give enough of a shit that you want to do it right. That's important. So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I saw you're into sewing. What do you need? What do you need? What would you like to be able to help you in this sewing journey? And sure, they may not wind up sticking with sewing forever, but that support means tons and kind of makes your gift list a lot easier to manage. So, definitely a gift certificate or a gift card, or if you can, just ask them what they need and try to see if that's not something you can get yourself. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I hope this makes your holiday shopping a little bit easier for your ADHD friend or family, whether this is holidays or birthdays or anniversaries. Hopefully this gives you something to launch off of. Don't feel like I'm saying only get these things. These are just ideas that hopefully may spur new ideas, or that just may wind up scratching another person off your list. And if that's what I did, just make sure you put my name on the tag. Thanks very much for watching. Drink plenty of water. I will see you guys in my next video or on the next podcast episode.